want to discuss some troubleshooting things. So at the boot time, what are the issues will occur? But the entire troubleshooting I want to tell in a one single shot. So in this one also, what if your system is not turning on? Okay, system is not turned on, but nothing on the screen. So what you will do? Or you are hearing beep sounds. Nothing on the screen, but you are hearing some beep sound or buzz sound. What is a possible thing it is? Or you power on your system, on the screen it is showing bootable device not found or operating system not found. What you will do? Okay. Or your power on your system, on a system it is showing Windows logo and loading symbol for long time. Generally 1 minute or 2 minutes is okay, but it is taking half an hour, 1 hour also it is showing like that only. How to troubleshoot that issues. Okay. And your system is slower. What to do? Okay, system is slow. Different situations, different times, system is slow. From starting onwards is slow, suddenly it is become slower. So what to do all these things and stuff. Also, we are going to discuss. These are all important things. Next, what is service management, registries, what is safe mode, what is system restoration. Okay, so we have to discuss. So it depends upon the time. We'll see that one. And another important one is BSOD. What is BSOD? Why this BSOD occurs? If you got a BSOD, how to troubleshoot? So these things are important. And how to check these event logs, Windows logs, event viewers, Windows logs. What are these event logs? How to check it? If you got application related issue, how to troubleshoot it? Okay. And other hardware related issues also there. That is also we are going to discuss. But right now, we are going to jump to the operating system because you just load an operating system, right? Boot processing means loading of operating system, not installing, loading of OS. OS is already in your hard disk. So when you power on your system, OS will be loaded from your hard disk to your RAM. Then you can start using your system, right? How it will be loaded? That what is the step-by-step process of loading the OS? First is post, next is checking your bootable device. Okay, find out this bootable device based on the boot priority. Okay, loading of, okay, found the bootloader, bootable device. Now you have to find out where is bootloader. So what is this bootloader, and what the bootloader will tell you how to load OS and where is this operating system. Then OS is loaded, you got login screen, you log into your system. Then system, you can start using after loading of this user-based services, application-related services, startup applications loaded. Okay. So now hardware components completed, boot processing is completed. What is boot processing? Loading of OS. Then what is this OS? We'll discuss. Okay. So first thing is we discussed about hardware. Hardware. Hardware means hardware components like the CPU, RAM, ROM means BIOS, chip, motherboard, hard disk. Okay, other hardware components, networking, NICs. These are the hardware components. Now I want to run this application. MS Office I want to run. MS Word I want to run. Excel I want to run. I want to access a website using Google Chrome browser. How to do it? I have a hardware, but how to run an application on this hardware? We don't know, right? We don't have direct interaction. Of course, in the olden days, we are running programs like hard programs like assembly languages, 8085, 8086. Programming, you have learned. So you learn about assembly languages. What is this? They are having a code. So this code you are writing as a program. It interprets and convert into what is that language? Is a hexadecimal ASCII language. Using ASCII code. It convert into hexadecimal format. That is feed into your hardware and compile. Are we doing that kind of stuff now? We don't need it, right? So a lot of people are using a computers without knowing this binary languages, hexadecimals, assembly language kind of stuff. So how it is? Because of operating system. Okay, using this operating system provide user interfaces. It is provided a environment to run applications. Okay, I'm running this paint because of operating system. So operating system provide user interfaces, provide an environment to run applications. Okay, user interactions, end user. Okay, end user interfaces. So this operating system is between end user and hardware. So in an interface between user, end user and hardware, the operating system is there. This operating system will provide user interface, running of applications. This part of operating system, we call it as shell. And another part of operating system which provide to interact with your hardware components, that is called a kernel. Operating system, kernel. Operating system, kernel. Okay. So operating system, two parts, kernel and shell. Kernel part of operating system interact with your hardware. Okay, shell part of operating system provide environment to run applications and user interface. Okay, so what are the application we are running here? What are the commands we are giving here? So this shall understand and convert into kernel understandable. Kernel run these instructions and data through your CPU, RAM, hard disk, like that. So this is our operating system. We'll see one by one statement, guys. A operating system is a software which is act as an interface between end user and computer hardware. It act as an interface between end user. I'm an end user. I'm an end user. I want to work with my system. How to work with my system? So I need certain interface. Okay, running some applications. I do certain tasks, right? So how to do it? Like that operating system providing that one. Okay, because directly I can't run on the hardware. Every computer must have at least one operating system to run other programs. Applications like different applications like Chrome, MS Office, okay, MS Word, games, whatever you are running, okay, you are running anything, you are doing programming, everything. To do that one, so we need some environment in which it will run and perform its tasks. The OS help you to communicate with a computer without knowing how to speak computer language. Computer language meaning is binary language, electrical signal. We don't do that one, binary coding, hexadecimals and all we don't do, not required. So without that kind of stuff, with the help of operating system, you can work with your machine. It is not possible for user to use any computer, even a mobile phone, without having an operating system. Not only your smart mobiles, guys, even the keypad mobile phones, having some operating system. Operating system is which provide an interface to interact with your device. That is a program. That's operating system is also a kind of program which provide interface or interaction to the user to work with a device. Okay. So this is what is meant by operating system. And this operating system, as I said, there is an architecture of operating system. One is kernel and shell. This operating system, two parts, kernel and shell is an architecture. So what is this diagram? It is internally, that is a hardware. On top of hardware, operating system kernel is there. Means the kernel of operating system interact with your hardware. And on top of kernel, there is the shell OS. Okay, shell program. The shell will actually runs your applications, your commands, provide user interfaces. Finally, you interact with your shell with user interfaces, running commands, applications that runs that will be understandable by your shell, and that will give it to our kernel. Kernel runs on the hardware. So kernel interact with your hardware. Kernel manages CPU, means process management, disk management, network management, memory management, totally your hardware management. Okay. Shell interact with user, provide user interfaces, runs user applications and commands. So this diagram usually we have seen in while learning of Linux or Unix operating system when we are learning. So this is the diagram they will explain first, right? Kernel and shell. But if you want to join learning of any Windows related operating system, you didn't see any kernel and shell. The difference is, guys, every OS having kernel and shell. Every OS having kernel and shell. Okay. But thing is, in a Linux and Unix, you can able to interact with the kernel levels of OS and shell level of OS. You can interact it and you can modify those kernel and shell parts. But in Windows, it's completely closed. Shell or kernel, you can't interact with the kernel program, shell program. You can't modify, you can't able to do it. It is restricted. So in a shells comes into the Linux and Unix, what kind of these shells use it? Of course, because there are CLI based systems, so obviously they use the command. CLI based means command line interfaces. And here it is, they use this bash shell, Bourne again shell, Bourne shell, SH, T shell, C shell, K shell. So different shells are there to interact and run the system. Even user interfaces. So user interacted with the system. Now we are using a GUI mode to interact with our system, right? In GUI, like you open the windows, close, okay, checking. Visually, we are looking at them. So graphical user interfaces. Command line interfaces. What is command line interface? You want to do certain task. So you have to type the command to do the certain task. You want to check what files are located here. So, or maybe you want to shut down your system, or maybe you want to run an application, or you want to do some remote login. So you have to do it in a command. You want to manage your disk, or you want to manage your process, right? That is, you can control everything through the command line interface. Basically, Unix and Linux are command line in operating system. Powerful command line operating system. Even they are having GUI, but compared to GUI, CL is more powerful. Okay. GUI in Windows, we are all in GUI mode only. Majority works we will do it in a graphical user interfaces. Okay, so you can directly interact with your system. Simply you can open and close an applications. TUI. So now some people say putting CLI and TUI are same. Some people say it is different now. So as you know, so there is a TUI means it's a text-based or terminal-based user interfaces. It's intermediate between CLI and GUI type. It's not GUI, definitely not a GUI, but you can, instead of putting a command, you can, there is a window-based administration is there, but without any mouse utilization. Example, you take NMTUI, network management, TUI interfaces. So like this, you can assign an IP address. Otherwise, you have to type the commands or you have to configure a file, network related file. So, but using this, it's become very easy to work with the systems. So this is like a TUI as per me. Okay. This is some basic points of your operating system. What is your operating system? What is kernel? What is shell? What is user interfaces are available? CLI, TUI, or GUI interfaces. Okay, guys, up to here. Hmm? Okay, continue. No one is saying anything. Mhm. Okay, we'll continue. And next is different types of operating system. Different operating system also there, but here it is different types of operating system. Okay, different types of operating system. Operating systems, different types. In the types also, different types also there. In types also, different types also there. Okay. The first one is like SOS, NOS type of operating system. Simple operating system, network operating system. This simple operating system are like a desktop operating system. Someone put a question. Very good. Very good. Yes. Okay. Good. So that's what I. Okay. Desktop based operating system. Simple operating system means normal desktop like you have Windows 10, Windows 11. These are the desktop operating system. Okay. So what is use of this desktop operating system? To work, to run different applications. What is the purpose of desktop operating system? To run applications, games, data processing, multimedia, web browsing, programming, like multimedia, like audio, video related. Okay. It is the desktops are like a end user devices or client pieces of system services, servers. Okay. So desktop operating system. So simple operating system. I am using Windows 11. It's simply a simple operating system. In this system, I can do web browsing, playing music, so videos, right? Playing games, like that. I run different applications, accessing different things from my system. It's like I'm a client. NOS, network operating system, is like a server operating system. So server operating system provide different types of services through network. Run server based applications. Okay. Example Windows servers. Currently 2025, 2022, like that 2019. These are the Windows server operating systems. And Linux based server operating system, Unix based server operating system also available. Server operating system is like a supports to run server applications. Some certain server operating system contain built-in server features to provide services, either by installing and configuring applications or by installing configuring built-in roles and features inside of your server. It provides different type of services like DHCP service, DNS service, web service, mail service, authentication related services. Okay, so these are the SOS and NOS types of operating system. Another type of operating system based on user and task base. Single user, single task, single user, multitask, multi-user, multitask. Example, Microsoft DOS, single user, single task means only one user can log in at a time. Okay, and only one task can be performed. After one task completed, next task complete, next task, like that. It's a single user, single task. Single user, multitask, multiple tasks we can perform. Okay, like our Windows system. Multiple tasks we can perform. Right now, I'm open a web browser with the different things like a paintbrush, notepad, Microsoft Edge browser, okay, and also Microsoft Teams also running. So multiple tasks I can run, but only one user can log in. It's like a single user, single task. Only one user can log in. Okay. Once I log in, no other user can log in. Directly or remotely, they can't log in. So once I log out, then other user can log in. That's a single user multitask. So example A in Windows only, both Windows desktops and servers. Multi-user multitasking. Multiple users can log into same system. Multiple tasks they can able to perform. Example Unix and Linux operating system. Means one single system. So multiple users can log in. Physically they can log in because physical terminals, through physical terminals. Remote terminals also they can log in. So multiple users can log into same system at a time. And of course, we can run multiple tasks. Example, Unix-based operating system, Linux-based operating system. Okay. So based on user and task-based types of operating system. And other than that, real-time operating system. Real-time operating systems, real-time operating system, I understand adding this line. I don't know what it is also. Okay. Real-time operating system. What is this real-time operating system? Guys, we are using a Windows-based operating system. Some may use Linux-based OSs. Some may use Unix-based OSs. Most of the time, these OSs, like Mac OS, so most of these OSs from a organization, we are utilizing these OSs for our different usage purpose. Okay, so OS total control, like update of OS, functions of OS, commands, everything is uh, controlled by that manufacturer of that operating system who built that OS is having that rights to be followed, right? Any new update is available, any changes required, everything is controlled by a separate organization. Now, what is this real time? So, for my organization, they need a OS. So then I build a OS for my organization use purpose only. It's not generalized OS. That OS is specially designed for specific hardware and specific task purpose only. Example, you take satellite stations in a satellite, power grids. So every sensitive kind of stuff. So you don't wait for other operating system, their licenses, their updates, their upgradations, future changes. We don't depend on it. Simply, we create our own operating system. It's called real-time operating system, and use it for our own devices, our own command lines for person. So total control of an organization and OS is there. Distributed operating system. This distributed operating system, so normally OS runs on one system, but this distributed OS runs on the multiple systems. Exactly say multiple processors it is running. Mobile operating system, this is good one. Mobile operating systems, like generally we know the mobile OS means either Android or iOS, right? So either you are an Android user or iOS user, Apple user. But before that one, there is other operating systems also there. Okay, Symbian, Nokia Symbian operating system for small mobile and smart mobiles also. They use Symbian OSs. Tizen. Tizen actually built by Samsung earlier. Samsung, Tizen. BlackBerry. BlackBerry is one of the, that time in our old days with the QWERTY keyboard. So it is very highlighted mobile phone, both operating system wise, hardware wise also. Okay. It contains QWERTY keyboard. This is a concept built based on internet access, mainly email uh, access, email sending purpose. Okay. So later it is become gone. Why? Because the smartphones, cheaper costers, touch phones are came up. So this BlackBerry is gone from the market. Windows phones. So some of the people may know at a Nokia time. So Nokia and Microsoft having a tie-up. So my Nokia provide a Nokia mobile phone voice from the Windows phone. So it came into market like that with the Lumina series, but it is went out of the market very less time. But Windows phone related voices are there from very beginning of time itself, like AT&T, STC mobiles use Windows voices. Okay, so these are the different types of operating system, types of voices. Okay, different types of operating system. Windows and sorry, desktop OS and server OS, small difference. Server OSs can run server-based applications. Server OSs may having server features. Those features or roles are by installing server applications in it, it becomes a server and provides services. That's what is comes under network operating system. Okay. So next is different voices. Different voices is different from types of voices. Different voices are like Windows-based voices, desktop voice, server voices. Example of desktop OS is like Windows 10, Windows 11. Okay, server OS is like Windows Server 2019, 2022. Linux based operating system also there. Linux based OS is like Saint OS, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, SUSE, like different type of Linux based OSs. Mac OSs, of course, different versions of Mac operating system is there. Unix based OSs, Solaris, HPUX, AAX, Z by 400, okay, ES by 400, like that it is. Desktop operating system. So you are having a OS, right? I am also having OS. Like I go to about your PC. So see my operating system, Windows 11 Pro Edition. About your PC, you can find Windows 11 Pro Edition. Windows 11 Pro Edition. Windows is my operating system. What is 11 version? What is Pro Edition? So editions are like Home Edition, Pro Edition, Enterprise Edition. Versions are like Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows 7, Windows 8. These are the versions. Okay, so that is a important point. That's why I kept it there. Version and editions. You can also check your operating system and find out what is your operating system version and edition. Pro and enterprise features. One second. Okay, so this is the point. What is this editions differences? Some editions having a features which is may not having in another one. So you are using home editions. The home editions does not have the features like which is inside a Pro and enterprises. Example, Hyper-V feature. Hyper-V is a virtualization platform, virtualization related features. BitLocker, local group policies, workgroup folders, app lockers, and these Pro and enterprises can join into the domain, but in home edition features, you can't get it. So these are the desktop OS, means your OS version and editions and small differences. Then servers also having different server OSs like Windows Server, different editions also, versions also there. Okay, and in a Linux and Unix, different OS. That's it. Okay, so this is about your another point, like different types of operating system, different operating system, and small differences. Version and edition differences. So last batch, they got this question. Not last batch, it is some one batch, but one or two batches got this kind of questions. So that is also I kept it to make it more fun because it really there is no relationship between. Okay, to tell the differences. Like what is the difference between browser and OS? But question is, what is the difference between browser and OS? But I have it in web browser. Guys, browsers are here in our system, only two browsers. One is file browser called File Explorer. Second browser is our web browsers. And web browsers also like Google Chrome browser, Microsoft Edge browser, any other browser, Firefox browser. Okay. These browsers are an application. Purpose of the browser is to access website. To run an application, what we need is an operating system. To run any of the operating system. So to run any of the application, what we need is an operating system. So that is a thing. And what is this operating system? Operating system runs applications. Okay. So provide environment to run application, user interfaces, interact with the hardware and user. Without OS, you can't run applications. There is no OS means what you do with your applications. So web browsers or browser is a kind of application. Web browser is an application which is used to access website. It's an application means to run any application, we need an operating system. Operating system are used to run your applications, provide environment to run applications, user interfaces, interact with your hardware and user. Okay, so this is a difference. So why it is important? It's a very small question. But why it is important, guys? Sometimes you got this type of question. Important is understand immediately what is the purpose of web browser, what is the purpose of OS. Okay. Okay. Another question is also asked in earlier. That the question is related to little hardware, that is RAM and hard disk. RAM is different, hard disk is different. We discussed about hard disk and SSD. So there is a relationship. RAM and hard disk. So what is this? How to tell? So we know RAM is a primary memory, hard disk is a secondary memory. The RAM is a primary memory. Okay, the RAM also called as physical memory, main memory. RAM is a volatile memory. Hard disk is a non-volatile memory. So what is meant by volatile? When if you shut down your PC, what are the current RAM content data will be gone. But you shut down your PC, what are the content in the hard disk will be like that only. Okay, RAM is a permanent memory, hard disk is permanent. Hard disk used for mass storage purposes. RAM load data from your IO devices and give it to the processor process it and give it to the RAM will give it to the IO devices. Okay. So this is our hard disk contains stores operating system, applications and data. So this is another question asked in earlier. Okay. So there is small point that is called Windows and Linux differences. So take a small break. Okay. Then we'll go to Windows and Linux differences. Okay. Then we'll continue. So this time take more time. So last time I gave only 10 minutes. Okay. Now take up to 4 time. Okay. Now take a 4, 10, 15 minutes. Then we'll discuss about a um, 4 10. We'll discuss about Windows and Linux differences and other things also. Okay, take a break.